Welcome to Table Flippers Podcast, an outreach of Greater Works Christian Church here in Lancaster, California. I am your host, Robert Enos. If you like what you hear, visit us at gwcclancaster.org. That's gwcclancaster.org. Find the Table Flippers link, click on it, and you'll get to our merchandise. Now, get ready for a huge dose of truth and a huge dose of common sense. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are doing well and having a fantastic day. I am going to talk about speak on a subject that to me is one of the most heart-wrenching things that I could ever talk about. Something that I've been wanting to talk about since I started this podcast and never really got around to it for one reason. It's one of those things that to me is so heart-wrenching that I'm not sure I can get through this without breaking down. So I'm going to do my best, because what I want to talk to you about today is child sex trafficking, these children that go missing, and many of them, not all of them, thank God, but many of them get caught up in this child sex trafficking. And that to me, again, is one of the most horrendous, heartbreaking things that I could even imagine, because our children are a precious gift from God. Every child is a precious gift from God, and she should be loved and protected and kept safe. And unfortunately, often they're not. So I want to go over some things here. And the first, I'm going to read to you a page from missingkids.org. And this is from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And if you hear as I read this, NCMEC, that's what it stands for, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And again, I'll leave the link up in the description area so you can read it for yourself. And there's many, many other issues and many other articles and things, information in this website that you can look into. But let me just read from this. And this is from, it says, The Issues, Child Sex Trafficking. Overview. Child sex trafficking is a form of child abuse that occurs when a child under 18 is advertised, solicited, or exploited through a commercial sex act. A commercial sex act is any sex act where something of value, such as money, food, drugs, or a place to stay, is given to or received by any person for sexual activity. While any child could be targeted by a trafficker, research data and survivor lived experience and expertise have revealed traffickers and buyers often target youth who lack strong support networks, have experienced violence in the past, are experiencing homelessness, or are marginalized by society. When youth feel like they are not loved, supported in their identity and voice, or like they don't belong, they become ever more vulnerable to unsafe situations. Traffickers are masters of manipulation and prey upon vulnerabilities using psychological pressure, false promises, actions of perceived love, support, and intimidation to control and sexually exploit the child for their benefit. The issue of child sex trafficking is complex. Understanding the various forms of child sex trafficking and indicators can create opportunities for prevention, identification, and response. Most importantly, NCMEC embraces and encourages all efforts on this issue to be survivor-informed, child-centered, and trauma-informed. Below are some examples of child sex trafficking, and I'll read some of those in just a moment. But I just want to touch on this and give my comment on what we've just read so far. This is, to me, one of the worst things that's happening out there in our world today, and here in the United States of America, that there are many children being taken, abducted, kidnapped, coerced into sex trafficking by these wicked, completely evil, deranged perverts and pedophiles. People such as that, in my opinion, it's too good for them to even be behind bars. I, for one, and ladies and gentlemen, some of you might have a hard time with this, I don't. But when it comes to our children, and it comes to our ladies, but especially our children, those who don't have a choice, those who are too young to be able to defend themselves or fend for themselves or even know what's going on. If somebody touches them in a sexual unacceptable manner, as far as I'm concerned, they belong at the end of a rope. They belong at the end of a short rope in a tall tree, or strapped to an electric chair, or, as Charlie Daniels Band said, take them out to the swamp, tie them to a stump, and let the bugs and the alligators and the snakes and all the other vermin do the rest. This is one of the most wicked and heinous crimes that I could ever think of. And these people are just clogging up our system that even when they are caught, it blows my mind that they're not immediately taken out back and put a bullet through their head. Perverts, pedophiles, evil, wicked, and it's disgusting because what they do, to me, a lot of people would say they would put it on the same level as murder. I wouldn't even put it on the same level as murder, because to me, the molestation and the rape of children is worse than murder. Because, and now please again, do not misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say in any way that murder is acceptable. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, murder, as far as being bad, murder is a 10. But on a scale of 1 to 10, child rape, child molestation, sexually abusing children is a 20. Because at least with a death, again, I'm not trying to sound in any way cold-hearted, but it's over. That person isn't hurting anymore, at least in this lifetime. But with a molestation or rape, especially of children, that person, unless gets some radical, deep help, suffers a fate often worse than death over and over and over and over for the rest of their life. That to me is absolutely heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, and something that honestly my brain and my heart can't even fully grasp. And maybe because deep down I don't really want to, because I don't want to understand that level of pain. But anyways, let me get back to this, because I just want to read some of these things to you. So it says, here are some examples of child sex trafficking. Pimp-controlled trafficking. Child is trafficked by an unrelated individual, male or female, who often develops an intentional relationship with the child, which is later used as leverage in the exploitation. Gang control trafficking. Child is trafficked by a member of a gang or trafficked by the gang. Gangs leverage their organizational structure, violence, and local, national, and international networks to instill fear and loyalty in the child victim. Familial trafficking. Child is trafficked by a relative or a person who is perceived by the child to be a family member, such as individuals referred to as auntie or uncle, but are not directly related to the child. Buyer-perpetrated trafficking. Child is being trafficked but does not have a trafficker. Instead, the buyer is directly exploiting the child's vulnerabilities by offering money, food, and or shelter in exchange for the sexual exploitation. Child sex trafficking can have devastating immediate and long-term consequences, including health impacts, psychological and physical trauma, and even death. Child sex trafficking can have devastating immediate and long-term consequences, including health impacts. Oh, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, that sentence is put in there twice. So let me go on. Prevention, education, and intervention are key to keeping children safer. After making a missing child report to law enforcement, we encourage law enforcement, parents, and legal guardians to report all missing children, especially children who have run away. And then it gives some numbers there that I'll do my best to remember to include in the description of this particular episode. Some numbers in this same report on the same page. It says, by the numbers, in 2022, NCMEC received more than 19,000 reports of possible child sex trafficking. So, ladies and gentlemen, listen to that. 19,000 reports of possible child sex trafficking. That's not all the children that went missing. Those are the ones that were more than likely involved in sex trafficking, taken and put into sex trafficking. In 2022, NCMEC received over 400 reports of children who had run away and were likely victims of child sex trafficking who were also being exploited through a gang. Trends show us that when children run away frequently or for long periods of time, they tend to be running from an unsafe situation or to an unsafe situation. And I would add to that, this is my words, sometimes both. 1 in 6. Now listen to this. 1 in 6 of the more than 25,000 cases of children reported missing to the NCMEC in 2022 had run away and were likely victims of child sex trafficking. Okay, so of the runaways, 25,000 cases, 1 in 6 of them were likely victims of child sex trafficking. Of the children reported missing to NCMEC in 2022 who had run from the care of child welfare, 18% were likely victims of child sex trafficking. So I want to stop right there for just a moment, because the rest of this article, although it has some really great information and such and things what we need to know, or you need to know, I need to know, but it's more about what to do if you want to report a child missing, or if you think you know of a child that might be sex trafficked or a missing child or a runaway or something of that nature, and how you can contact this organization and get them to help. But ladies and gentlemen, again, there is something really sickening and beyond the obvious. You know, child sex trafficking is obviously sickening and disgusting and perverted in every way. Just the thought of it. And the reality of it is that it's happening. And as it says here, upwards of 19,000 children in 1 year could possibly be in sex trafficking. These children, sex trafficking. So upwards of 19,000, and maybe even more, because some don't get reported. Okay, these are the ones that are reported. And this happens through pimp-controlled trafficking, gang-controlled trafficking, family trafficking, buyer-perpetrated trafficking. I just want you to think about it for just a moment, especially if you have children or grandchildren. Now, please, I'm not trying to stir anything up, and some of you have, my heart breaks, because some of you have experienced this on some level. On some level, my heart goes out to you, whether you are the parent, or somebody, a child was very close to you that had been taken, or maybe at some point you were taken and got out of it. Praise God. So I do not want to stir up any kinds of emotions that's gonna hurt you or cripple you in any way, even if it's just for a short time. But we do need to understand this, ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you who have not faced this. And I don't want to say yet, because it's not everybody, but if you haven't faced this, at least do your best to try to put yourself in that position. What would you do? How would you feel if your child went missing, or your grandchild went missing, or your niece or your nephew went missing? How would you feel? I mean, honestly, think about it for just a moment. If you were, say, 10 years old, try to put yourself back into those shoes of being a 10-year-old, strolling through the mall, getting away from your mom or dad for and sometimes it takes seconds, and being scooped up, somebody grabbing you around the chest and throwing their hand over your mouth so you can't scream, and ducking down some aisle and throwing you in, some door or hallway, dragging you outside to a waiting van, and within 15 seconds you're gone. And the fear and the anguish and the pain of not just that moment, but what comes if they don't quickly find you. Quickly, the pain, the fear, and the lifetime. And often it's a short lifetime, but a lifetime of dealing with the pain and the anguish and the heartbreak of that type of abuse and exploitation. Ladies and gentlemen, I again, it is it's extremely difficult for me to even try to put myself in any one of those scenarios, because to me, children are there. We say it like this: children are our future, and we brush it off like, yeah, of course they are. But children should be our everything. They should be our heart. They should, yes, be, of course, our future. But when a child comes into this earth, that's a precious treasure that God gave to that family, to that mom, that dad, but also to everyone on the planet. And everything in our culture, everything in our society, everything in the world around us should be about the care, the nurture, the safety and security of those children. And you know what? It blows my mind. And again, I did not want to make this political at all, but I don't know how not to when things are so blatant. Because right now, especially with the gun control issue, the Democrats are wanting to take the guns away from law-abiding citizens, and they use the children. It's to protect a child. So if it protects just one, if it saves one child's life, isn't it worth it? And this is the same group, the hypocrites and the liars, the same group that want to kill your babies even before they're out of the womb, and now are making it possible to kill your babies outside of the womb. So that if you bring that baby to term, you have a baby, that baby is in your arms, and you decide within a certain amount of time that you don't want this baby, that baby could be murdered, and the Democrats have no problem with that. And they're going to try to save your children from gun violence? They're liars. They're hypocrites. Okay, now we have this president and all these Democrats in charge of this country. At the same time, we have Epstein, this Epstein's Island, the pedophile island saga. And this list of all his clients and all the people that have visited there frequently, I might add, that they refuse to release and they refuse to prosecute, even though they know that island was a place where children were being sexually exploited, sexually raped, sexually molested by the people on those lists. But the problem is, it's some of them and some of their friends. So they refuse to touch it, and they're keeping it under lock and key. Why? Because they don't give a rip about the children. As a matter of fact, the Democrats right now are actively working at trying to normalize pedophilia. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here. This is why I've said before, I say it again, and I will continue to say it. Do not vote Democrat. If you vote Democrat, you are voting for perverts, pedophiles, child rape, sex trafficking. You are voting to keep people like Epstein around, alive, and functioning. Why? So they and their friends can go to his island to have a little fun with a bunch of children. It's disgusting and it's perverted. Do not be an accessory to that perversion. And listen, if there's rumors, and I just say it's rumors because I don't know fully who's on that list at all. There's rumors floating around that President Trump has frequented Epstein Island. And I'm going to tell you, as much of a supporter as I am, because I appreciate what he did with our country, if it turns out that he truly was there exploiting, raping, molesting children on that island with that freak Epstein and the people that went there, then as far as I'm concerned, he does belong in prison. And not just him, but anybody and everybody on that list belongs in prison. And again, why aren't they bringing it out? Because they would all go down. I mean, I've seen some of the photographs from that island when they finally did raid it and they did take care of business at least a little bit and arrested him. There was paintings, not just photographs, paintings, like portraits, paintings of Bill Clinton. Yes, our former president, Bill Clinton, wearing a dress and heels, like he was some kind of transgendered person. And this was hanging up in one of the rooms on Epstein Island. It just blows my mind. So my point on that is, why aren't they showing this? Because a lot of people, certainly a lot of Democrats and their donors and supporters, but a lot of even Republicans, I'm sure, would go down. And I'm saying let them go down. All of them. Anyways, let me go on before I get off on that. There's another site. It says, the name of this is kind of interesting, Just Great Lawyers. And they're talking about the missing children statistics. And this is, I'm not going to read again the whole article. I'll leave it up there so you can read it if you want to. But it says general missing children statistics. Hundreds of thousands of children have gone missing since 1999. As you'll see below, the United States has far more reports of missing children each year than are seen in other countries like Japan, the United Kingdom, Russia, and India. The largest number of missing children are runaways, and 99% of them return home safely. So, not to bloat these numbers or blow them up, just to blow them up. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of children are reported missing. And as it says here, 99% of them return home safely. Okay? But that other 1%, that's a big number still. That's a big number. So as it says here, in the United States, an estimated of 460,000 children are reported missing every year. The recovery rate in the highest risk cases for missing children rose to 97% in 2011 from 62% in 1990. So they're getting better at finding these children and bringing them back. Only 1 out of every 10,000 missing children reported to the police is not found alive. Okay, 1 in 10,000 is not found alive. Here are some statistics about missing children in the United States. In the United States, estimated, we already read that, but 460,000 children reported missing every year. In 2019, the total number of missing children entries into the FBI National Crime Information Center system, NCIC, was 394,000. In 2020, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, helped law enforcement, families, and child welfare with 29,782 cases of missing children. Only 1 out of every 10,000 missing children reported to the police is the victim of murder. In 2011, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, reported that a child goes missing every 40 seconds in the United States. So that takes us back to 2011, but think about it. Every 40 seconds in the United States, a child goes missing. The recovery rate in highest risk cases for missing children rose to 97% in 2011 from 62% in 1990. More than 99% of missing children return home alive. And that's good, okay? But the fact that they go missing in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some kids that, get a chip on their shoulder. They get mad at mom and dad. Mom and dad didn't do anything wrong, and this is not always the case, but they may have punished him, grounded him, whatever. And they get mad and they take off. I'm running away. And they're gone. Depending on if they have somewhere to go, they might be gone a day or two or whatever, and then they pop up. That's not what bothers. Well, it bothers me because that just puts fear in everything else and anxiety in everybody. But it's these other children, the children as we read that go into sex trafficking. These other children are being snatched up because these perverts out there want to be with a child instead of somebody more closer to their age. It just blows my mind that we live in a world where these types of perverts are out there and they're targeting children. They're targeting any child, your child, my child, neighbors' children, children in their own family, children in the neighborhood. The fact that they're targeting them. I mean, when you look at the, what is it? Not Amber Alert. There's that website where sex offenders have to register. Anyways, off the top of my head, I forgot the name of it. I just had it. I was just reading about it. But nonetheless, they have to register. And you look at all of the rapists and child molesters and such that are on there. It just, again, it blows my mind. What is that? And some of them, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70 years old. What is that 60 or 70-year-old doing? Anybody for that matter. What are they doing messing around with a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 2-year-old? I mean, anyways, let me get on with this. Now, this next portion is from Wikipedia. It's just giving a little information. Again, I'll put the link in the description area. And it says, sex trafficking in the United States. Sex trafficking in the United States is a form of human trafficking which involves reproductive slavery or commercial sexual exploitation as it occurs in the United States. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why did they call it reproductive slavery? Reproductive slavery. It's sexual. It's sex slavery. They're snatching up women and children primarily to be sex slaves. Anyways, reproductive slavery. Sex trafficking includes the transportation of persons by means of coercion, deception, and/or force into exploitive and slavery-like conditions. It is commonly associated with organized crime. It has been estimated that 2/3 of trafficking victims in the United States are U.S. citizens. Most victims who are foreign-born came into the U.S. legally on various visas. State Department estimated that now listen to this. The State Department estimated that between 15,000 and 50,000 women and girls are trafficked each year into the United States. So 15 to 50,000 women and children are trafficked into the United States every year. The measures against trafficking of women focus on harsher criminal legislation and punishments and improving international police cooperation. There are vast media campaigns which are designed to be informative to the public as well as policymakers and potential victims. And I just want to stop there. There's a lot more in this article. I just wanted to share that with you just to give you that perspective that there's many, when children go missing, there's upwards of close to 500,000 that go missing every year. Most of them are found, and those are the ones that are reported in that regard. Family members, friends, whatever. They report when they go missing. Often they're runaways. They find them, bring them back home. No foul, no harm. Beyond that, for the most part, but a very small portion of them are sex trafficked. But again, those are the ones that are reported. Anywhere from 15 to 50,000 women and girls are trafficked into the United States every year. Okay, those are the ones that aren't being reported because they're being trafficked illegally, for the most part, illegally into. Well, it's illegal to traffic anybody. And some of these people are here on visas, but a lot of people that come from other countries that want to be here, maybe they're lied, hey, we're going to get you into the United States and you'll be free, blah, blah, blah. They get here and then they're exploited. And what are they going to do? They can't really go to the authorities. They're scared to. You'll be deported. You'll get this. Oh, back home, your mom and dad will kill your parents, will kill your family. All of this. So they feel stuck. They feel stuck. I'm not saying that's the case with absolutely every one of them, but enough of them that it happens and it's a reality. 15 to 50,000 women and girls every year. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw these numbers, and it's staggering to me, the reason it's staggering to me because I have to then think, wait a minute, let's take the lowest number, 15,000 women and girls are trafficked into the United States to be, as it says, reproductive slaves, sex slaves, and for commercial sexual exploitation, which I am assuming is prostitution. Who in the United States of America, anywhere in the world for that matter, but who in the United States of America is responsible for this? And it's, listen, everybody's responsible for their part in it. But the person to me that is most responsible for it is the person with the cash that will pay for it. Because if there is nobody paying for these sexual encounters with these women and children, there would be no reason to bring them in here, to traffic them into the United States. If there was nobody in America willing to pay for it, there'd be no reason to bring it. It's like drugs. If there was nobody buying the drugs, they wouldn't bring it in because there would be no money in it. There'd be no purpose for it. Who are these perverts? And in no way am I trying to say that, no, it's just not happening because I don't know anybody. I don't think I know anybody. They're keeping a great secret if I do. But think about that. Who are these perverts that are doling out the cash to have sex with a woman that's trafficked into the country, or some child that has been abducted for this purpose? Who are these perverts? Well, we know that at least with Epstein's Island, there was a whole bunch of them. We don't exactly know fully who they are. There's a lot of rumors going around. There's a lot of clips saying, well, this person's on the list. These people are on the list. For sure, these people are on the list. To which I say, possibly, but we don't know fully. We need that list to be published and made public. We need law enforcement to go after these people. Why isn't the FBI rounding them up? The FBI is too busy kicking in the door at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and instead of rounding up the perverts that are sexually abusing, raping, molesting children. And the whole while, the Democrats are working feverishly to make pedophilia normal and acceptable. Just the same way they're doing transgenderism, the way they did with homosexuality, and all of that. It's just another form of sexual expression. And they're doing their best to make it normal. Why? Because if they're not successful many of their buddies themselves, they're going down. So you got Epstein's Island, Epstein's client list that they will not release. And you have to ask that question, why? There's a push in this country to normalize pedophilia. I'm just reading off my little whiteboard. I made some notes. And there's no other reason for not publishing the Epstein Island client list. Our government is doing everything it can to protect the pervert child molesters who frequented Epstein's Island. And not just that, but who are still engaged in child sex exploitation at this moment. Hey, well, of course they're not going to do anything when you got Hunter Biden, President Joe Biden's own son, admitting to, and on film, on video, on camera, with an underage, I believe it was his niece, but young lady nonetheless. He's out there smoking crack and having sexual encounters with an underage girl. Why isn't he rotting in prison? No, better than that. Why isn't his body rotting at the end of a rope somewhere? How is it that Joe Biden is still president of the United States and not rotting in prison somewhere for the crime of covering up his own son's perverted actions? Why? If Joe Biden, they're sick perverts. That's why I don't buy their whole Second Amendment nonsense. We're just going to if we just save one child. Nonsense. If you want to save some children from harm, throw Joe Biden in prison. He's sniffed enough little children. Throw Hunter Biden in prison. Go get Epstein's client list and send the FBI and federal agents after all of those perverts. Round them up. Put them in prison. And I'm telling you right now, by doing that, you're going to save lots of children. Lots of children. Close the borders. So these women and children that are being trafficked into the United States, and some of them possibly outside of the United States, can no longer do that. And you'll save some children. Everything the Democrats are for are against you and I, and especially our children. They're a bunch of sick perverts. They're a bunch of pedophiles, child molesters, and themselves and their policies are destroying people, especially our children. Don't fall for this nonsense anymore. Don't fall for it. It's sick, it's perverted, and it's disgusting. When Epstein's client list finally does make it to the light of day, and beyond every shadow of every doubt, we can see and know who went to that island and how often they went to that island. Ladies and gentlemen, most of you won't be shocked. Anybody that has 3 brain cells will not be shocked at who it is. Some of them we might be, because we're going to say, wait, that guy seems so straight-laced. But I don't really care who it is. Throw them all in prison. Throw away the key. Forget about them. But some of you Democrats, this is the thing. You're still not going to be shocked. This is what bothers me about, now I'm not going to say all Democrat voters, because some Democrat voters, again, don't really take the time to study this stuff, look into it, connect some dots, to which is still foolish. But you still somehow, somewhere, some way still think the Democrats care for you or somebody. They don't. You will be shocked. But the rest of the Democrat voters, you're not going to be shocked. You know you're voting for perverts. You know you're voting for perverts. And it's sick and it's disgusting. I'm going to speak to you. I don't even want to speak to you guys, because as far as I'm concerned, you guys are lost causes. Unless God really gets in and shakes you up at the core of who you are, there's no hope for you. But the others who maybe just haven't studied this, they're low, what do they call it? Low information voters. They just don't have the information. They haven't looked into it. They vote Democrat because mama voted Democrat, daddy voted Democrat, or somebody at work told them, or their union told them to vote Democrat. Isn't that interesting, too, that unions are primarily pushing Democrat candidates who are perverts? What does that say about the union reps, or the union bosses? Just a thought. But some people just are low information voters. They're just doing what they're told to do by mom, dad, aunt, uncle, friend, union boss. You're the ones that I'm after. You're the ones that I'm trying to speak to. You're the ones that I'm trying to wake up. And please wake up. Just do a little bit of research. Please do a little bit of research on this. Look into this. Look into this, ladies and gentlemen. Please look into this. Our children are being exploited. Our children are being raped. Our children are being molested. Not all of them, of course. Thank God. But if one child is being abducted and used in sex trafficking, that's one too many. My heart breaks for them. And if it sounds like I'm angry, I'm extremely angry. I'm extremely angry at this. And I want somebody to stand up. I want some entity some law enforcement entity to rise up and say enough's enough. We demand, not just the Epstein client list, but we demand a stop to this. If that's more Border Patrol agents, building a wall, whatever it takes to stop the human trafficking into and outside of America, and especially within our borders. Americans doing these perverted things to other Americans, our American children. It disgusts me. Disgusts me on every level. So you perverts out there, you perverts, I want you to know something. I'm telling you, your time's up. We're going to come and get you. You're going to be found out. You're going to be rounded up, and you're going to pay the ultimate price. Mark my words. Thank you for joining us at Table Flippers. I truly appreciate you. You can write me at gwccrobert@gmail.com. That's gwccrobert@gmail.com. Please let me know how I'm doing. Remember to pick up some of our merchandise. You can find the link at gwcclancaster.org. That's gwcclancaster.org. Until next time, be continually blessed.